down weeks from DK Metcalf and Saquon Barkley obviously isn't giving us the production we want that we drafted him for as a top three running back off the board. Are these players that you would bench at all?
So starting with Saquon Barkley, I don't think you can bench Saquon. Um, Granted, a lot of people took him with a top five pick, but he really only has 3 games under double digit fantasy points. It's still not what you like to see. You want to see him kind of go off and be the Saquon of old, but you cannot bench Saquon. As for DK, you can bench DK, and I can guarantee you if you're contemplating whether I should start DK, whether I should bench DK, I just can't like continue to, start him, whatever that dilemma that you're at, I can guarantee you're on the lower half of your league. You drafted DK to be a wide receiver 2 in some cases, wide receiver 3 in some cases, but he's been terrible. I've had him in a league and he hasn't been helping me out. The last 3 weeks I've been benching him for like waiver wire streams, and I have not regretted it. So it's tough because the offense that they run there, and I'll be quick, but the offense that they run there, they prioritize obviously the running backs, they prioritize all of the tight ends. He's the one threat on that team at the wide receiver position. That means that teams are going to roll coverage over to him. He's not getting all these open looks. He doesn't have that much support. They were looking for a wide receiver at the trade deadline, didn't get one. And so, yeah, no, I don't trust DK whatsoever.
Well, we had Calvin Austin was out for a little bit. Jalen Warren was banged up for a little bit. So it's like they've had to figure this thing out offensively as well. And we know what Pittsburgh likes to do in the second half of football seasons, and that's get to the ground game. So I think
Hmm.
for now, I like DK as a start still, at least as a flex. I think he provides upside. He is kind of an option. We're talking about Alec Pearson, Jerry Judy. I trust DK more than players like that. So I would start him. And then I think Saquon is one of those players you can't bench him right now. There's not enough running backs in fantasy football that are
Yeah.
productive enough to where I would say you're benching Saquon Barkley unless you're in an 8-team league or a guillotine league right now where there's 6 teams left. So for me, I'm
Mhm.
out on benching either of those guys. BR Gridiron asked us a question. They said, "Is Jerry Rice available?" Yo, hey, off camera, real quick. We're having a little debate here in comments. I want to get
Yeah.
your guys' thoughts on this. We talked about Jerry Rice, and we'll be super brief on this because I know we have to get into a lot more. But is Jerry Rice the GOAT? And obviously, both of us said yes. But
Yeah.
who would you take in a one-game scenario? You're in the
Mm.
Super Bowl. You need to win the championship, whatever it is. Are you taking Jerry Rice to be your guy? I said Calvin Johnson. Pete, who did you say?
I'd say T.O. Give me T.O., man. If he could do it on a broken leg in the Super Bowl, he's going to give you everything he got, man. And in today's league, Jerry Rice, as good as he is, you have to have some sort of like physicality to you. You have some sort of dominance to you to really take over a game. As much as I love, as much as I love, this right here is signed by Jerry Rice. If I could get my whatever, you see the
Yeah,
you
that
see the
way, that
helmet
way,
right
that
there.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
That's
way.
I'm like, well, but nah, give me T.O., baby. Give me T.O.
Yeah, I think Calvin, man, I mean, when you can go for 300 yards and catch it over three bodies every single time the ball go up, give me Calvin, bro. Full PPR, who would you flex between Ted McMillan, Jordan Addison, Keenan Allen, or Woody Marks? Full
Ooh, that's a good
PPR.
one.
I think with this one, this is a really good one. I think, obviously, like you have to kind of play a little bit into the offenses. I think Jordan Addison provides a lot of boom. I think Keenan Allen's kind of phased back into the role that we thought he would be in earlier in the year, kind of playing a conservative role. And I think Woody Marks is just not in a high powered enough offense. Even if CJ Stroud is back this week, I think Ted McMillan for me is the play here. A good floor play does provide a little bit of upside. Are you with that as well?
I'm actually leaning towards, I think I would take Addison over Ted McMillan. I do like the Woody Marks matchup this upcoming week against Tennessee. Woody Marks has been explosive. He's one of their explosive outliers that they have on their team, right? At least in the running game. Their offensive line isn't that good, but that doesn't seem to matter. It's like every other game, he kind of has a blow up game. And I think that they'll have a good enough lead to have the game be in Woody Marks' favor. So I'm leaning Woody Marks.
I bet. Well, and last one before we get back into the list is Tua a good play against the Washington Commanders? They just lost Marshawn Lattimore. They're all kind of banged up right now as well. But I'll be at that game, so I'm gonna say, yeah, fire Tua up, baby.
Depends on who's out there, man. I just don't know if I can trust Tua. If you're in two quarterback or super flex leagues, yeah, throw him out there. But if you're
Yes.
in 10 quarterback, 10, you're in a single quarterback league, 10 team league or whatever it is, I would look for somebody else, just keeping it real.
Yeah, I ain't gonna hold you. You probably got better out there in the 10 team, 12. If it's single QB, you probably got better out there.
Yeah.
But let's get back. Let's get back to the list, P. Obviously, I talked about Tyler Warren being on a bye. Jawan Johnson is on a bye this week for the Saints. I don't know who's still, depending on him fully, but you might be looking at tight end options. P, you got any?
Yeah, I got some tight ends for you. Cade Otton. Listen, all of the injuries that Tampa Bay has at their pass catching positions, it seems like Cade Otton has actually come in as a safety blanket for Baker Mayfield. So this last game, especially coming off of a bye, when they need to chase points, when they need yards, they're heavily targeting Cade Otton. He got 12 targets, 9 catches, and 82 yards. I was actually going up against him in a tight end premium league. So it was stressful. I pulled it out, but I mean, that's just what we do. But yeah, no, Cade Otton, you've seen this last year as well when they needed to rely on somebody. They needed somebody dependent when all of their wide receivers got hurt last year, and Cade Otton stepped up. It says a lot to me that coming out of the bye, he's stepping up as well. They're going for a youth movement. They got Tez out there. They got a Mecca out there. Both rookies, both doing their thing as well. Cade Otton brings a little bit more of a veteran presence to the pass catchers, so they're going to rely on him. They're going to target him a lot up the middle. They're going to target him to move the chains, and he provides a red zone threat for them. So Cade Otton is a really, really good pickup down the stretch here at your tight end position. You could find some consistency with him where in this world here in 2025, the tight end position has been the opposite of consistency here for you.
No, and that's a really good point, especially with this Tampa Bay team. We know Baker will get the ball out. Like he's an effective quarterback no matter who's out there. So you talk about Emeka Ibuka. We know what he's going to do. Tez Johnson has provided a spark, but this team has been missing Chris Godwin. He's out.
Yeah.
And being the safety blanket that he was to start the year last year and probably would have been this year, it's like that team does need a safety blanket. Who else was a safety blanket for this team, especially in the ground game last year? It was
Bucket.
Bucky Irving, and
Yep.
he has been out. We don't know when he's going to be back. They're ruling him out very early in the week now. So the team had consistent red zone work, had consistent short field options if they needed, to just do a little, quick play, quick hitters. That now goes to Cade Otton. So I think this team has really needed him to step up. And like you mentioned, we saw that last year where he was, a top option at the tight end position in that role. So I agree heavily with you there. As we've had the injuries, as we've had these things to this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team, Cade Otton is going to have a nice role down here during the stretch. And then I want to pivot to an option that may not be back this week, but as we're starting to load up into fantasy playoff territory, P, we're getting, some of those teams have like 7 wins, 8 wins. You kind of are starting to get the feeling, all right, I'm starting to get ready for my playoff push. A player that
Mhm.
I'm looking at right now picking up is Jaden Reed. And this name, I don't know how many leagues he's available in, but I wanted to touch on this because there's a lot of other options out there. But as buys start to end, you need less
Mhm.
of the fringe options, more of the options that can stay in your starting lineups. And I think Jaden Reed is a player that he might have been dropped in some of your leagues, especially if you're in a non-competitive league, a work league, maybe a 12-team league. There's a chance he could be back before the fantasy playoffs, and this team desperately needs a receiver. Matthew Golden has been out recently, has not played up to the standard of the first round pick that they drafted him to be. Romeo Dobbs just left the game this week with a chest injury. He could potentially be out for some time. Tucker Kraft out for the season with a torn ACL. We're seeing this team decimated with injuries, and I think it's easy to forget like Jaden Reed last year, and I know this was without Matthew Golden, but Jaden Reed was a top 25 receiver over the last, or top 30 receiver over the last 2 seasons, his rookie year and last year in PPR leagues. This is a player they depended on in the ground game. They use him in reverses. They use him in the red zone. They throw the ball deep to him. Like Jaden Reed was a dependable target for Jordan Love, who has not been the same without Jaden Reed. He has not looked like the same quarterback over the last few weeks. So I think getting a safety valve in Jaden Reed, if he could come back by week, as I mentioned in the tweet, week 13, week 14, this might be a flexible player for some of those teams that are looking towards the fantasy playoffs already, P.
No, that's a strong, strong choice there. So, yeah, no, Jaden Reed, just like you're saying, I mean, right now, for a lot of teams, this is your last week to trade. The trade deadline is now. So, for your teams that are going on these stretches, you're going to want to consolidate. That means you're going to target those teams who are needing to make some wins. Let's target those teams who may have some players on bye. You're sending a lot of 2-for-1s, 3-for-2s, to try and acquire more talent. That leaves more space on your roster for somebody just like a Jaden Reed, right? So,
Great point,
uh,
P. Great
yeah,
point.
so I'm right there with you on that. At the end of the show, I got some honorable mentions for that situation as well, but I'm right there with you, picking up Jaden Reed for the home stretch.
No, good call there. If you are sending out deals right now and you are the better team and you're taking on, you're giving up 3 players for 2 or 2 players for 1, that does open up bench spots for you as well. So that's a key strategy move there because chances are out of the 3 or 2 players that you're sending over, one of those players is probably very replaceable on the waiver wire. Just saying.
That's
We had a couple
facts.
questions that came in the chat P in the meantime. And if you have questions for us right now as you're going through your fantasy lineups and decisions this week as the trade deadline approaches, make sure you guys get those questions in now. Bucky Irving and Rashee Rice for Devon Achane. Who wins this deal? And P, I'll take this one to start off, man. Bucky Irving, Rashee Rice, you're giving up a lot with Rashee Rice just in general because Rashee Rice and Achane is probably pretty even right now in PPR
Hmm.
leagues with the way Rashee Rice is playing. And then to top that off, you're also getting Bucky Irving. So I think for a team that is destined for the playoffs, maybe getting the Rashee Rice and Bucky side gives you a little bit of upside with Bucky Irving here. And I probably would lean towards that value wise. But I think it's tough right now, Pete, to pass up on the top end running back that Devon Achane is. This could be a good consolidation move. I would rather have the Bucky and Rashee Rice side.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking that there's one thing you have to consider. Rashee Rice just came off his bye. Who knows Bucky's I'm really thinking like, yeah, Bucky is a good addition, but they already just came out and said they don't know when he's gonna come back. Devon Achane hasn't had his bye yet. Rashee Rice has, right? With that
Great
being
point.
said, Devon Achane does have a cake matchup in the playoffs, and he really has a cake matchup down the stretch. Week 13, New Orleans. Week 14, the Jets, who would be scary, but they just gutted their interior defensive line, so that makes easy running holes. And they got Pittsburgh, which can be tough, but Cincy, week 16, right? In the semifinals. If you could get
Woo!
Achan against Cincy in the semifinals, that's worth considering. That is worth considering. So, haven't seen Rashid Rice. Rashid Rice is going to be Mr. Consistent, and Rashid Rice is going to week in, week out get you anywhere between 16 and 22 points. Devon Achan, as we just seen, is a player that can go off for like 40 any given week, just like we just
Yeah.
seen. So, something to consider.
A lot there with that deal because you also have to deal with what if Miami goes through some wholesale changes? What if Devon Achane gets nicked up towards the end of the year? Like there's a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of what if Bucky Irving just doesn't come back? Like there's a lot within that trade. So just be careful with that deal. I would say if you have the receivers to support taking on Achane, then by all means, it's a pretty clean deal. I would say there's
Yeah,
upside
it's a
on
good
both
deal.
ends, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, it's a good
We
deal.
need a running back to start between Manungai, Amari DiMercado, and Kareem Hunt. And
Yeah.
this is a tough one because it's kind of yeah, exactly. It's all flex worthy type running backs. P. Which one of these backs would you start? Manungai, DiMercado, or Kareem Hunt? We've seen DiMercado kind of come out of nowhere, man.
Yeah, we've seen DeMarcado kind of come out of nowhere. I think they opened up the window for Trey to come back over there, so I'm not
Trey
sure if
Benson,
he's going
yeah.
to play. Yeah, Benson's going to come back. A few things to note about Manungai. Even though it's fully healthy over there, Manungai's still he's still splitting the work there. It seems like almost 50-50, and he does get a lot of the goal line work. But it seems like they're leaning a little bit more on Hunt. I think, I would just assume that Hunt's going to get more goal line opportunities. So for me, the floor play would be Manungai and Hunt, and it would just be split in there. I'd probably lean Hunt. Just keep it in G.
Yeah, we still have a lot of information that we need to come out. Where's Isaiah Pacheco? He's been week to week. Is he due to come back after the team's bye? Is Trey Benson ready to get back on the field? Was DeAndre Swift's workload because the team was splitting reps last week after his injury? So there's a lot of question marks that need to be filled out. We'll probably get a lot more tomorrow when teams return to practice and give out more information. But I think for me, I probably will go with DeMercado right here until we know that Trey Benson's going to be on the field. I go with DeMercado because he's the one that's splitting the work the least outside of, I mean, Kareem Hunt is it hasn't worked too. But I go DeMarcado
Mhm.
here. And then last one before we get into the last two. Should I drop Jordan Mason? It's a 12-team league. I mean,
I
I
dropped
don't
him
really see
last
a need
week,
to
put it
hold
like
Jordan
that.
Mason.
I
Yeah.
dropped him a week ago. About a week ago.
we,
Nah, you're
yeah.
gonna drop him.
Yeah. All right, let's get into these last two, P. And you said you had a couple tight ends. Who's the last one you
hmm
got?
All right, so yeah, this is another tight end who I wanted to pick up. I think you should pick him up as well. Brenton Strange, he's coming back from injury. They just opened up that window. And this is somebody who you should pick up because he really was a safety blanket there in Jacksonville. He was pretty consistent, and their pass catchers just got a whole lot worse, right? Travis Hunter, season-ending injury, right? So, they're saying they could see him play this week even better, right? They're really having trouble with Brian Thomas. They don't really know, you get the feel they're not going to come out and say it, but you get the feel that they are just not happy with Brian Thomas. Whether it's a rinky-dink injury, whether it's him quitting on plays, this is not the Brian Thomas that they had last year, and it shows. And fantasy owners know it. I mean, I know it. I have so much stock in Brian Thomas. I don't know what to do with them, but and then they got Jacoby Myers, right? And then Parker Washington. But Brenton Strange, the person that they're looking for is somebody who can really move the chains, somebody who can get you yards and like 10-yard chunks, 8, 10-yard chunks. And that's where Brenton Strange was living when he was in the game. And they're going to need him even more with the injuries and the inconsistency that they're realizing with their wide receiver room. So when he comes back, I can see him really being a top 8, top 10 tight end for that stretch, right? So for those leagues who are in a tight end premium league, here's looking at you.
Yeah, Brenton Strange, coming into the year, I was a little higher on Brenton Strange than most. And, early part of the year, I wanted to continue to be on the Brenton Strange, bandwagon. The problem I'm running into with Brenton Strange or Brian Thomas, Jacoby Myers, Parker Watt is Trevor Lawrence just ain't that good, bro. And you know me, I've been on Trevor Lawrence. I really wanted to think that he would take that next step. And it's just not there fantasy wise specifically. It's just, maybe he's a safety valve. I just don't really see the upside with the Brenton Strange. And that's the problem I have. I do think he could be worth the pickup. And if you are struggling at tight end, I think it's a great option. That's the one question I have, P. Are you concerned at all with Trevor Lawrence being the quarterback over down the stretch with this pickup, or are you not worried about that at all?
I don't think I'm concerned with Trevor Lawrence. It's you got to think this is a new offense he's coming in, right? So there's going to be some learning curves. On top of that, like if you watch in the games, because I have some Trevor Lawrence and I've been like watching, a lot of the balls are accurate. They're just bouncing off their wide receivers' hands. A lot of these wide receivers, not a lot of them, but Brian Thomas, namely, they've been trying and attempting to feed him, and he's really been like extremely lackluster. I think it's a combination of learning this new offense and the fact that his number one target, who's supposed to be a top 5 projected fantasy wide receiver coming out, has really fell short. It's been tough. It's been tough. So it's just been a bad situation. Does that mean I don't trust him moving forward? No, you have to trust this type of offense. You have to trust them to try and continue to push the ball down the field and trust their wide receivers. And that's why I'm higher on Brent Strange than most.
Not mad at that, man. And one last name here. We'll go a little quicker on this one because it really doesn't need a lot of explaining, but we have to mention this for the people who are in single quarterback leagues. Joe Burrow potentially could be out there in your leagues. He was actually dropped by a lot of teams when it was announced that he was going to miss significant time for the season. Well, we saw his practice window open. We saw Joe right back out there on the practice field. And this was a lot earlier, P, than people expected because we were expecting a 3 to 4 month return. It's been a little under 2 months since he had the surgery. And, that's a 21-day window, meaning that they've opened this thing so he can be back within the next 3 weeks. Now, we've heard that the target date for Joe Burrow is week 13 against the Baltimore Ravens. At worst, it looks like it's going to be the Buffalo Bills the week after in week 14. You don't have to worry about a bye with him. All you have to worry about is him just being on the field. But P, this could be a seismic shift for anybody that's looking for quarterback or for whatever reason if he was dropped. Like I said, we don't have to talk a whole lot about it because we know who Joe Burrow is. But if you can go get Joe Burrow right now, I'm not worried about this toe injury. Get him on your roster.
Yeah, I'm there with you. If he's out there, you have to pick him up just with this news that's coming out. I just still would be I would be surprised if he actually did, just considering all things like their record, right? They're 3-6. If they drop another game or two, they're gonna think, okay, what's the reason really Joe is gonna go out? Is it gonna be more beneficial? Is the risk worth the reward of him going out there? And if we have 4 wins with 4 or 5 wins without making the playoffs, there's that to consider just from a team's perspective. But nevertheless, Joe Burrow should not be out there if he's expected to play week 13, week 14-ish.
Yeah, and it could mean good things, even better things for Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, some of those weapons there on the Bengals. A couple more questions that came in from the chat that we want to get to here. Kamani Vidal, Rashad White, or Cortland Sutton at the flex. Cortland Sutton has been so tough to trust, man. Kamani
Mhm.
Vidal has been going absolutely crazy as a starting running back for the Chargers. Which one of these picks do you like the most, P?
I'm gonna say Vidal. It's interesting because Vidal has a good week, bad week, good week, bad week, good week, and he's scheduled to have another bad week if we're going off that trend. Nevertheless, I'd still pick Vidal. Rashad White has been extremely underwhelming, as well as Sutton. In fact, if Sean Tucker's out there, I'd pick him up.
I got a PPR League 10 team question coming in from Marvin. Who to start, Goff, Williams, or Tua? And I think this is one of those questions, P. It's like you got to kind of, you want to play the matchups. I got to get the matchups here in front of me. But with the way that Caleb has kind of turned it on as of late as well, I do think that he is a good option. When you talk about, Chicago, I think there's a few things starting to click. We see Romo Dunze be kind of hit or miss. We see DJ Moore be hit or miss. But going up against this Minnesota Vikings defense is going to be a little tougher. So I like Caleb in this one, man. I think Caleb will be my play. What about you? You got Goff, Caleb, or Tua?
It's definitely not Tua. This is my thing. Like, it's between golf and like, look, I'm gonna
I just know
lean
Goff got that
Caleb.
Philly defense.
Yeah, Goff is good, and Philly just revamped their defense, and they look good. Caleb is one of those players who's not going to look good throughout the first 3 quarters, and then on the fourth quarter, he's just going to turn it up. That's what he did last week, and that's what he did the first time he played Minnesota. Still put up 20 plus fantasy points. The rushing upside is there, and this is a good offense, a good play caller rather. So they'll get it together. For that reason, I'm leaning Caleb.
Be well asked, do you start Rodgers or Jacoby Brissett? Both quarterbacks coming off of, I would say, very bad games for both of these quarterbacks. But Jacoby Brissett, team decided to move with him. Aaron Rodgers, we saw Mike Tomlin kind of come out and openly criticize him. Which one of these quarterbacks do you believe in? Jacoby Brissett going up against San Francisco defense. And then we got the Pittsburgh Steelers playing against that Cincinnati defense this week. Which one do you
Oh,
like better, P?
oh, it was a shootout of the OGs. Oh, that's good. I was really gonna come in and smash Brissett, but uh, like the Brissett button. But that's a really good defense that he's a really good opportunity for Rodgers. I'm still leaning Brissett. I'm really still leaning Brissett. Like, although he opened the week last week with 2 turnovers, he still put up, I think, 19 fantasy points. Right. So, this team is moving really good with Brissett, and I just keep it rolling.
Yeah. So I'll go Aaron Rodgers on this one, and I think we can against that Cincinnati defense. I think we can get things uh, opened up a little bit. A couple
Yeah.
YouTube questions came in before we get out of here. With Travis Hunter out, is Parker Washington to the moon? Yeah, Parker Washington has been playing at a very high level, but you do get Brenton Strange in there. Jacoby Myers will get adjusted, so I don't know if we get this level of Parker Washington, but continue to start him until he proves us otherwise. And then the last question coming in from Steven on YouTube: are we picking up Trey Tucker this week? Playing against Dallas this week. Appreciate you letting us know who he's playing. Trey Tucker, an interesting pickup, obviously, with no receivers there. We saw Brock Bowers have a dud last week. I don't know. I think you could do better than Trey Tucker, but
I'll give you one better on the same team. Pick up Tyler Lockett. He's a little bit more consistent, a little bit more, a lot more seasoned. Last week, his first game on that team got 6 targets. I think he's the one to own there.
I'll leave that one to you. Listen, we have a lot of other names too. So I think we've talked about a few names that I prefer over Trey Tucker. But let's get back to this, man. The week 11 waiver wire pickups that you need to make for the week. Starting off with Alec Pierce, a great upside option. He is on a bye this week, so be very careful about Alec Pierce, but a big body receiver who they like to use in the red zone and deep downfield. We also have Jerry Jeudy, who had a strong second half in 2024. Maybe we see something like that in 2025 if he was dropped. It looks like things are starting to change for this Browns team moving forward. Cade Otton, who has become a bigger piece of this Bucs offense with all the injuries to a lot of different positions, but mainly in this offense, we know he's a safety valve. Jaden Reed, a couple weeks away from returning, could be a prize piece for some of these fantasy playoff teams. Brenton Strange, also returning from injury here. For those who maybe don't have Tyler Warren this week, Brenton Strange, a nice safety valve for Trevor Lawrence. And then Joe Burrow for those leagues where he was dropped. Make sure he's not out there because he's going to be back for the stretch run for the Cincinnati Bengals team. P, week 11 is here, man. We're a couple weeks out from the fantasy playoffs. You talked about the fantasy trade deadline is approaching here very soon. Let's see. We normally do some type of words of wisdom here for those who are, kind of fighting for their fantasy playoff lives. Anything trade-wise, pickup-wise you got for them?
Yeah, for those teams who do trade and then do consolidate, like looking to consolidate, if and when you make those moves, for those teams that are, strong playoff positions, you're going to want to pick up some of these like handcuff running backs just in case some things happen. Sean Tucker already out. We don't know when Bucky's going to come back. He's already outplaying Rashad White, and he kind of was outplaying Rashad White last year as well. So I would anticipate him coming back. Blake Corum, listen, Kyron has a injury history. And as of right now, they're split at almost 50-50. Like Kyron's going to get his own drive. Blake Corum's going to get his own drive. We don't wish injury on anybody. However, history shows, and if it's going to repeat itself, Kyron is going to miss a few. He can potentially miss a few games. We don't want that to happen, but we gotta call facts facts. And then Tyler Algier is probably the best handcuff in the game. If you have an extra spot and if you are consolidating, those players are players that should they be in an opportunity to help you out are going to really skyrocket your chances in these fantasy playoffs.
Some quick words of advice there from my man P. And then and I'm gonna say this: as fantasy trades are approaching, as people are picking up players off the waiver wire, stay away from vetoes. No vetoes. Make sure you
No
guys,
vetoes.
unless it's collusion, don't hate on the next man picking up a player or trading for players, man. We're not gonna do no hating on this side. For myself, Justin Henry, and for my co-host, for Bob Parmar, it's been the Week 11 Waiver Wire Show. We'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out.